Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Raymond Yeung. Here are tonight's top stories. Government advisors suggest a fifth COVID jab to avoid a surge in cases during the winter peak. Joe Biden hosts French President Emmanuel Macron in the first state visit under his administration. And Japan completes another stunning comeback to advance in the World Cup, while Germany and Belgium are sent packing. Two scientific committees advising the government have suggested administering fifth jabs to adults on a voluntary basis. A respiratory medicine specialist is also encouraging the elderly to get a booster shot. Macy Mock reports.
In the latest recommendation by the Center for Health Protection Scientific Committees, adults can soon choose to receive a fifth COVID jab. Apart from the regular Sinovac and BioNTech doses, they can also opt for the bivalent vaccine, commonly known as the Omicron booster. Those who have received the fourth jab can opt for the fifth after a gap of 6 months or longer. People who were previously infected with COVID are eligible only if they have been triple jabbed. Those with weak immune systems and care home residents need to wait just 3 months between their fourth and fifth doses. Care home residents are advised to choose the bivalent vaccine, although it is not mandatory. Respiratory medicine specialist Leung Chi said immunity deteriorates within 6 months after taking each dose. So getting a booster shot such as the fifth could help build up immunity levels ahead of a possible winter COVID surge.
The current recommendation is mainly to protect the elderly and those with chronic diseases against serious disease in the coming winter epidemic. And for the younger one, they may also consider the fifth dose if they have strong personal need. For example, if they are working in some setting with a high risk of exposure, or if they are likely to pose risk to other high-risk person if they are infected, they may also consider the fifth dose.
Leung stressed that healthcare workers or those who regularly interact with frequent travelers should opt for the fifth dose. The revised guidelines come after health experts and pharmacists called on authorities to expand the coverage for the bivalent boosters. The first batch of 770,000 boosters arrived last week, but initial response was lukewarm. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
Hong Kong's COVID cases returned to 4 figures, 1 day after exceeding 10,000 for the first time in nearly 3 months. There were 9,996 cases identified in the past 24 hours, of which 637 were imported cases. Around 60% of imported infections were screened at the airport. Another 11 people had passed away with the virus. Legislators have taken MTR executives to task over a rare accident last month where doors came flying off a running train. A delayed signaling system upgrade also raised over budget concerns. Katrina Lau reports.
Nearly 3 weeks after train doors flew off in dramatic fashion, it was time for MTR executives to face the music at the Legislative Council's Transport Panel. Transport Services Director Jenny Yeung apologized again, adding a preliminary report was already submitted to the government 3 days after the rare accident. An investigation task force, including overseas experts, will submit a full report in 2 months, she added. Operations Director Tony Lee said a comprehensive assessment of railway facilities will be completed within 6 months. And the company will enhance train monitoring devices and staff training. But their pledges couldn't win the hearts of the lawmakers. Some were increasingly concerned over the progress of the signaling system upgrade. Back in 2015, the MTR paid $3.3 billion to French company Thales to install signaling systems on its 7 lines over the next decade. But a major accident during a test run in 2019 derailed the plans, and the railway firm confirmed it will now procure a different system. Lawmaker Michael Tien estimated the bill to be at least $2 billion and asked whether the MTR will sue Thales for the financial losses. Fellow legislator Chan Hock-Fong also called for more transparency on the matter. Yeung only said the MTR will negotiate with the contractor under the terms of the agreement. Katrina Lau, HKIBC.
Turning overseas, U.S. President Joe Biden hosted his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron in the first state dinner under his administration. The ostentatious evening was part of Macron's 3-day visit to the United States. Azam Khan reports.
It's a White House tradition dating back to 1874 and often reserved for an important ally or to celebrate a partnership. The more ostentatious, the more important the relationship. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden pulled out all the stops for the pomp-filled soiree, including a high-profile 300-people guest list from fashion, entertainment, and politics for French President Emmanuel Macron.
To President Macron and his wife Brigitte, to France, ladies and gentlemen, to the history that binds us and the values that still unite us, and to the future we're going to forge together. Vive la France and God bless America.
The night capped what was a more serious discussion both leaders had the day before, including America's new clean energy law, which Macron raised concerns about on behalf of Europe. Macron said that although the U.S. does not intend to hinder European companies, he's concerned about incentives in the new law, known as the Inflation Reduction Act, that favors American-made climate technology, including electric vehicles. Both leaders said they had frank discussions to try and iron out differences, whilst acknowledging the other side's standpoint. It was a showcase to the world that the historic relationship between both countries remains strong, and, as Macron put it, stand shoulder to shoulder. Azam Khan, HKIBC.
The Prince and Princess of Wales were given a warm reception on day 2 of their visit to the U.S. city of Boston. But their stateside tour came amid a simmering racism row involving a senior royal member. Continuing the charm offensive in the United States, Prince William and his wife Kate Middleton were greeted by an enthusiastic crowd as they arrived at a park on Boston's waterfront. Boston Mayor Michelle Wu and other local representatives were at the scene, explaining to the royal couple the climate innovation in the city. Like other coastal areas, Boston is at risk of flooding from rising sea levels caused by climate change. While their first overseas tour since the death of Queen Elizabeth is primarily focused on environmental issues. The couple also paid a visit to a non-profit organization helping teenagers and children. Their trip, however, has been overshadowed by a racism row of a royal aide back home. Susan Hussey, the Queen's lady-in-waiting of more than 6 decades and William's godmother, allegedly directed racist remarks towards a guest at Buckingham Palace this week. During a reception for charity groups, the 83-year-old asked a black British woman where she really came from. The victim, who founded a London-based refuge for vulnerable women, added Hussey brushed her hair aside to check out her name badge.
Abuse doesn't have to be physical. But if you move my hair without permission, to me, that's abuse. When you verbally attack, because that to me is what it is, you are determined that the answer that I gave you is not one you want to hear. You do not recognize me as British. And until I acknowledge that I am not, you are not going to stop.
A Buckingham Palace statement described the comments as unacceptable and confirmed that Hussey has apologized and resigned from her duties. In a move which will likely further strain Sino-British ties, a delegation of British lawmakers met Taiwan's Tsai Ing-wen today on the fourth day of their island visit. Tsai greeted the 5 MPs at the presidential palace in Taipei. The delegation is led by Alicia Kearns, who chairs the Foreign Affairs Select Committee in the House of Commons. This marks the first time in 16 years that House representatives visited Taiwan. Tsai said she was deeply touched by their support and called for better cooperation on the fronts of renewable energy, cybersecurity, and innovation.
But in terms of how we might support Taiwan, the goal is to prevent it getting to that point. We must prevent conflict. We must ensure that Taiwan is respected, and we must safeguard its sovereignty, safeguard the Strait, and safeguard all of those who live within Taiwan and wish to continue living in a democratic way. 30% of global world trade goes through the South China Sea, and the reality is that the world's technological heart is essentially increasingly becoming Taiwan when you look at semiconductors and their importance within the global economy.
Hong Kong stocks finished the day lower, reversing 3 days of rallies as optimism over easing COVID rules on the mainland began to fizzle out. Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng ended the day down by 61 points. To the top 10 active stocks, Tencent picked up $1.60. Meituan was up $5, while Alibaba was up $2. AIA Insurance was down by 70 cents. Kuaishou Technology picked up $2.30, while JD.com was up 20 cents. The forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar, the euro's at 8.19, the pound sterling at 9.55, while the Australian dollar at 5.30. Over in Europe, the London FTSE is currently down by 15 points. Hong Kong has long acted as the facilitator of trade between China and the rest of the world, but now the arts and cultural sector may also benefit. As the West Kowloon Cultural District slowly takes shape, a senior member of the Palace Museum said it was time Hong Kong get rid of its label as a cultural desert.
Hong Kong is anything but a cultural desert. We see Hong Kong bringing up a world-class orchestra, world-class performances in ballet, international award-winning art groups. Our performing arts school is one of the best, if not the best in the region, where students from across the region come to study.
Tam said while the West Kowloon Cultural District offers plenty of opportunities for artists to flourish, the private sector also needs to do its part to develop the city into a regional arts hub. You can watch the full interview on Friday Beyond Spotlights tonight at 8:30 p.m. on Hong Kong International Business Channel. On to the weather now. Mainly cloudy tomorrow, but expect sunny periods during the day. Temperatures will range between 16 and 21 degrees. Similar conditions on Sunday as the mercury picks up again. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Friday night. And join us for more news at 11. I'm Raymond Yeung. Thanks for watching. Good night.